Hola, you are listening to First Gen Healing, a podcast on Latinx healing and awakening journeys. My name is Priscila Luna. I am your host, and you are tuning in to part 2 with Joseph Octaviani. He is from Life the Plant Way. And if you haven't listened to part 1, I recommend that you go do that first. In part 1, we talk more about Joseph's upbringing and what led him to the path he's on now. And in this episode, we dive deeper into the topics of abundance, manifestation, scarcity, and a lot more. I'm sure that you're going to have at least a new perspective or a few takeaways from it. And I would love to hear from you what those are. So make sure that throughout the episode, whatever resonates, that you leave a comment and you let us know. Okay, pues, I'll leave you to it. Enjoy this episode. Define for us what you view abundance and scarcity as. And the reason I ask is because then I'll ask you, how do you marry what you see on a day-to-day basis with these concepts that can maybe seem to some people an illusion or so like far away from their reality?
Abundance is our birthright. Abundance is the universe. Abundance, quite literally everything in existence will show you that we are abundance. Like the universe is abundant. If you ever look at a plant growing, somehow these leaves come out the middle. It's like, where the fuck is it coming from? It's literally just coming out of the middle. And it's just, you see the new leaves coming in. It's like, where? From where? You know, that is abundance. You know, it's always going to come in. The sunlight being here every single day, that's abundance. You know, this unlimited breath that we have. I didn't run out of oxygen. You haven't run out of oxygen. How old is this world? You know, abundance. How much money did they print over the pandemic? They printed 7 trillion. They just printed it, 7 trillion. That's abundance. You know, scarcity does not exist. Scarcity is simply in here. We make things scarce by calling it scarce, by believing in scarcity. But a scarcity does not exist. There's no way it could exist. We wouldn't be here billions of years later if scarcity did exist. You know, so when I really started to go down that rabbit hole of kind of like just like the universe and everything is just abundant. God is abundant, you know, and I say God kind of loosely, not really like Christian God or anything like that, but just like, you know, just the all, the everything. You know, it is pure abundance. You know, the scarcity mindset, like what scarcity really is just these limitations that people got you to believe in order for you to run around with your fucking head cut off, in order for you to attack the next person, to play this crabs in a barrel game, because they knew that we could get rid of each other faster than they could get rid of us. So scarcity is just this mind game that they put onto us. You know, scarcity does not exist in this universe, okay? When I really started to understand what abundance was it was after I left the bank job. And it was like kind of like during the bank job and after the bank job. I started to learn like what money actually is. It's literally a figment of our imagination. Quite literally, a figment of our imagination. When I learned that, I was like, wait, what? So money does come from trees? Like money can be, it can just appear out of nowhere? I was like, oh, there's no way that there's a limited amount, you know? That's when really things started to shift, when I started to just understand the game of money more. And
when you say it's a figment of our imaginations, do you mean it to the sense of it's a concept that humans invented, like money? Is it to that degree, or do you mean it in a different sense?
It's yes, to that degree. It's something that we collectively came together and agreed upon. So if me and you say the screen behind me is valuable, and we get everybody around us to say, hey guys, this is valuable. We just created that concept of value. We just created that concept of money. Now we can trade those screens, right? Now I can give you this screen. What can you give me? This is valuable, right? We agreed upon it. Okay. So what can you give it to me that we can agree on that is valuable as well? So it's all a game. It's all a concept that we created, that we came together and agreed upon, right? Sadly, the ones who agreed upon it were the colonizers, and they implemented that into our life. It wasn't like that. But that's what it is. It's a game. It's quite literally a game, no different than Monopoly or anything.
And what do you do? Okay, first, one thing, an example that I've shared with others that helps like land the scarcity thing. Like you mentioned lobsters.
Crabs in a barrel.
Oh, crabs in a barrel. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's how I think of it. I think of it as like, when you're in high school and you're so immersed in high school that you believe that's the world. Like your day to day is about Janet who is with Bob and I don't know, like like it's like
Like
that's
Degrassi over here.
life. And like to you, that's life. That is the world, right? That's your day to day. And you may think like, oh, I have to fight with this girl because she's got my man. And like, that's the only men that there are in the world, and these are the teachers. So these are the authority in the world. And how I see scarcity is like forgetting that you're in one high school out of thousands of high schools in the world. Like that to me is scarcity versus abundance in a way, like they made like
Hmm.
your mind and your day to day is immersed in such a small like version of what is possible that you think that's reality and you're willing to exist and fight and put passion and love and everything within that environment. But if you were to scale out and recognize that you're in one drama, one play out of so many playing out, right? And then I think that's helped me at least like really conceptualize like that's abundance. Like there's so much, but whatever job we enter into or whatever city we live in or whatever family we're in, we immerse ourselves so much in that experience that we think that's reality and that's all that's available to us. Does that
Exactly.
make
We
sense?
have to
Okay.
zoom out. We have to zoom out. We have to remember one, okay, what are we even here for? Like, what are we? Like, the very simplest question of that dawns humankind. Like, who are we? What are we doing here? When you realize that you are a soul that came into this body to play this experience, to play this game, just like if it was Grand Theft Auto on the Xbox or whatever, like, that's literally what when people lose sight of that, when people forget that, then it's easy to zoom into these things, to these small human dramas, right? And think that this is it, this is everything. I remember there was a part in the Matrix. I think this was number 1 or number 2. I can't remember too well, but there was a guy in the Matrix, and the Matrix is literally just like a video game, right? You plug into it, you play, and then you plug out. Like, okay, that wasn't really real, but it felt real when I was in it. And there was a guy in there, and he was like, basically like, yo, this is not real, right? You're plugged into the Matrix. He's like, yeah, I know, but if if I'm here, I'm gonna care. Like, I'm gonna act like I do. Like, I'm here. Like, let's play the game. You know what I mean? But I know this is not real. I know once we unplug, then it's all just whatever. So we've lost sight of that. We don't remember that we're in this game. We don't remember that we're in this so-called matrix. So that is where the problem really came in. And I guess you can point that out to maybe the trauma that they made us face with colonization or whatever it might be, that you can pinpoint it. But in reality, that's what it was. Like, we just forgot who we are, truthfully, who we are and why we're here in the first place. And we're here literally just to experience. We're not here to whatever you thought your purpose was when you were younger. Me, I thought it was a football. I'm here to play football. That's why God put me here. No, I mean,
Infinite purposes.
I'm here to play football and that's it. Like, no, come on, guy. So we forgot about that. We forgot about our true purpose, and it was literally just to experience and love. Like, experience,
Yeah.
have fun. Like, well, what can you remember? Well, what did you do? How did you live? That's why we're here. And when you can remember that you're here just to experience, you have free will to experience whatever it is that you want. But at the end of the day, you're here just for the experience. So have fun, be along, go with the ride, have fun, but never take it too seriously to the point where you think that there's nothing else. Like you said, you zoomed in too much into the game, and now you don't realize that you're plugged in, and you think there's nothing more. This is it.
Yeah.
Never lose sight of that.
And for someone who follows this line of thinking, how do you exist in the real world when you no longer subscribe to that?
All the heartbreaks you went through, all the ups and downs, the all the emotions you felt, like that is a part of the experience. The more that you can experience, the more that you can have those emotions, the more that you can play in here, the better. So I don't necessarily, and it's, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of the spiritual folk will deem it as that. It's just a human thing, whatever, it don't mean nothing at the end of the day. And for me, I'm not like that. For me, it's like, no, it's important. It's as important as the other side. It's as important as the spiritual side. They're not really too separate. You know what I mean? One isn't deemed more valuable than the other in my head. Because again, this is the purpose. We're supposed to have these emotions. So for someone to subscribe to like this level of thinking, one, don't get too high off your shit. Like don't get on your high horse and think, like this
That you're
isn't
better.
valuable, like this doesn't mean anything or whatever. It means everything. Your physical nervous system, like this is going to feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So you best believe like it is valuable. Like you're going to feel it somewhere here. So I never want you to get too high off of your own supply. Okay. Two, I want you to understand that, like being a human is just as valuable as being a spirit, or being a soul, or whatever is the case. Three, I want you to, when you do register to this type of thinking, I want you to do it so that you understand what abundance really is. Okay, because when you understand that your soul is in this human body, then you can start thinking on a soul level. You can start thinking on a universal level. You can start thinking, okay, things are way bigger than this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is a big deal to me, but in the large scheme of things, it's not that much of a big deal. You know what I mean? Like this is a blimp in my life. So if you can find that balance of like giving it value and understanding, like in the long run, a million years later, is anybody going to remember your name? Then you start to kind of not get so caught up on the downs, or the highs. We
Yeah.
start to say like, hey, it's okay if I ride this wave. I don't have to keep going down and stay down and keep myself there, but I don't have to keep going up and think this is like
The only thing I
the
need.
bee's knees. This is
Yeah.
everything. This is the best thing that I'm ever going to experience in my entire lifetime. It's like, nah, there's bigger, better things. Okay. And there's deeper falls. There's bigger highs and there's lower lows, so
Yeah.
it helps you not get too caught into that and keep you on that low or keep you on that high. It kind of balances you out, you start to
Yeah.
appreciate all those highs and those lows, especially the lows. You start to appreciate them a lot more. You know what I mean? You start to look at them for the lessons that they are, and not just, woe is me. This is the end of my world. Oh my God. John broke up with me in 11th grade. It's like, zoom out a little bit.
Zoom out.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's important to you because you're a high schooler. You have emotions. You have hormones. Of course, that's important to you. Okay. But whenever you go through that cycle of grief, now you get to a point where it's like, all right, let's zoom out a little bit. How important is this? Like, is this something that you need to stay hung over? Like, you need to stay hung up on? Or can you take extract the lesson and then move on? But grief is very important. That's another thing that people ask me that all the time. Well, if you think none of this matters and you think you're just a soul and all this type of stuff, what happens if somebody dies? Do you not cry? Do you not? It's like, no, grief is a real emotion. Like, that's a real thing. I'm going to go
Yeah.
through those stages of grief. I'm going to go through these emotions, all of the emotions, and I'm going to be grateful for them, but I'm not going to be hung up on them all the time. That's kind of like what I want people to take away. Be grateful for the emotions, accept that there's emotions, but don't get entirely caught up on the emotions like there's nothing more. There's
Yeah.
always going to be something more.
Yeah, there's an infinite amount of experiences. And I think I also, maybe if you can talk about it in the sense of like the screen and its value when it comes to money. Because I think that like at some point in my awakening, I was like going down rabbit holes and it was all up here. It was kind of like at home in my room, it's where I would conceptualize all of this, shed all of these layers. And then I felt like, boom, reality, like you're like dropped back in, it's like, no, you're here, like you're a human, you're experiencing. And so it like really grounded me. But right now I think I'm really trying to find and bridge those two concepts, like what you're talking about and what I've kind of conceptualized in my mind versus what I just went through for the last 2 years. For example, let's just say money. Money plays a role, you know, as much as you might think this is a human experience, and I'm thankful for it because I'm learning and we're growing and our souls are evolving. Like, in the midst of it, money was still a part of it. And I couldn't just think money into existence. You know, these concepts that, yes, we can conceptualize all we want, but at the end of the day, we are living day to day here in reality. That's such an interesting thing to navigate, you know?
When I talk about abundance mindset and manifesting and all this type of stuff, there are two sides to this coin. You need an abundant mindset, meaning that there is enough for everybody. Like, you understand this, you know this, it's in you. Like, you know this. There is enough for everybody. Abundance is my birthright. There's always something that I can go get as long as I have the ability and the energy and the will to do so. So you have to marry these two, of the spiritual and the human. Most people think, I visualize every day, I meditate every day, I don't see $100,000 in my bank account. And it's like, okay, you meditate every day. Cool. You visualize, journal. But when that sign popped up that said, apply for this loan and get this business, you passed up the sign thinking it was nothing, or you got too scared to even act on it. You're not marrying the two. So you're too high off your shit. You're too on your high horse, and you're not getting it done in the physical realm. What steps are you taking? What goals are you putting down? Where's your discipline? Where's your drive? Where's your strategy? Where's your support system? Where's the human element of things? You have to marry both. So you have to have that abundance mindset of I can get anything I want. There's no limit to me. But okay, how do I get that? What steps am I going to implement? That's the part that people do not really, hone in on. Everybody, and that's why I say, like, the spiritual community, a lot of them are just too high off of their own supply. You can manifest everything, you can visualize everything you want, but if you never take any risks, you never actually put any action towards it, like the human aspect, like I'm going to the fucking bank, like I'm not visualizing going to I'm walking, you know what I mean? Like, if you never put that aspect in, it will never work. And that is the thing that people get confused. Like, people don't understand that. You talk about abundance mindset. Well, I have an abundance mindset. And it's just like, okay, that's not it. It's discipline. Okay, let's talk about the human aspect. What's your credit like? What's your savings like? Like your human things, So, but then there's people who just are on the human side who get really materialistic because they don't have a spiritual understanding of things, or they have a lot of discipline and can get that money, but they think all that money is the only thing that they can get. So, for example, Latinos, the hardest workers that you will ever know, they have this human side down packed better than me. I can't get up at 5 o'clock every single morning, even when I don't want to, 5-6 days a week. Like, they have that human, you know what I mean? But they're the spiritual side, right? They don't understand that abundance. They don't know that there's more money out there. They don't know that there's more opportunities. They don't know that they can create things from their mind first and then implement that hard work. You know what I mean? So we have this, you're either on one side or the other. You're either too high off your own supply, or you're too focused on this 9-to-5 schedule that you're not even envisioning more. You're not even, you know what I mean? So it's all about marrying the two. Once I started marrying the two, because I can easily say, like, hey, yeah, I meditated every day on the bus, and then a Prius just popped up into my garage. It happened. But it's like, no, it took me I said I had to read the books. I said I had to take the courses. I had to look for the car. I had to save up money for the car, right? I had to stop going out and stop buying weed and stop doing this in order to do that. That's the physical side, And a lot of people just get that part confused, especially in the so-called spiritual community or new age spirituality. We don't have that human side down. We still need to work on that part.
Yeah. Ooh, I
I hope that
agree.
helped.
I think that, yeah, it helps. Yeah, I think like maybe there's a lot of misinformation out there too, because when I started manifesting, it was like, write it down and forget about it. And it's going to
Pretty
happen,
much.
right?
Like that's literally like just think about it 5 minutes a day and it's gonna happen. Like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so right. I mean, and at the end of the day, too, like in this inner work that I do with myself and now with other people, it's like recognizing that if you're manifesting owning a business and having $200,000, let's say, you're going to have a nervous system that can keep up with that, right? You're going to have boundaries
Ooh,
that
that's a
can
big one.
uphold that company. How is it that you can't say no to your parents, right? Can't set boundaries with your friends or at work, but you're wanting to have this business and like think that magically you're going to turn into CEO, right? Like I think that's what I've
Mm.
been learning, like grounding it to like you're going to build up towards that. You're not also just going to be that person,
Hmm.
right?
Because if you try to go too fast, and this is what I did, and I lost my first 100K, the most money that I ever seen in my bank account. It was the most money that I had ever really earned. Was that first 100K, and my nervous system was not ready for it. I can tell you that. I self-sabotaged faster than I got the damn money. You know, for me, it was, we all are going to have our different modes of self-sabotage. Some people are going to buy a car, a Rolex, or whatever it might be, right? And then there's
Yeah.
some like me who, based off of my own traumas and my own DNA, I put others before me.
Speaking about putting others' needs before yours, hola, First Gen. This is Priscilla. I'm the host of the podcast, and I'm taking a quick break from this episode to share something with you. If you are listening to this podcast, then the chances are high that you are a Latina, Latino, Latine going through a healing or awakening journey. And as a first gen Latina who has been on both journeys, I know firsthand how challenging it can be to prioritize your own needs. Even as an adult, it can be frustrating to know that you have more potential in you, but at the same time, not be able to stay consistent with a morning routine, or feel that as you're doing the inner work, you're losing sight of who you really are, which can make it hard to know what you like or what you want. You likely crave knowing your authentic self more, but just aren't sure how to go about it. And even though you have started setting some boundaries and expressing your needs, you likely wish you felt more confident in using your voice. If you didn't know, I'm a Latina intuitive coach, and I have dedicated the last year and a half to speaking with fellow first-gen Latinos on healing and awakening journeys. I've done this not only with the 30 plus guests of this podcast, but also through my social media platforms and by doing one-on-one coaching sessions with many first-gens. What I have noticed is that these are the common challenges that many of us face at some point of our journey. And so I have combined all of the knowledge that I have gathered to create a program where I walk you through these challenges and introduce you to the tools that will help you navigate these phases of your journey. I am so excited to share this with you. The program is called Nuevas Raíces because in order to move into the next phase of your journey, First Gen, you will need to root into new habits, perspectives, and tools. Nuevas Raíces is a 6-week group coaching program where you will receive guidance, support, accountability, and community. Because this program is a group program, which means that you get to be surrounded by like-minded first-gen Latinos who understand. They too are going to be going through this journey, and together we will be working on getting you from being your inner self's distant cousin to your own bestie. I am so excited because I know that this program will help you gain the self-trust, clarity, and confidence that you have been craving. It's going to be so powerful. We do start in just a couple of weeks on October 26th, which is a Thursday in the evening. So make sure that you save your seat by clicking on the link in the episode description and signing up. I truly can't wait for you to experience everything that I have planned for you. It's going to be so special. Okay, now let you get back to the episode.
So this person needs a job. This person needs a loan. This person needs money. Boom, 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 boom. Give it away, give it away, give it away, and not focus on, me being okay. And that's how I lost my first, really like my first big chunk of change, because my nervous system was not ready for that. And I had worked and worked and worked to reach that point, but I didn't realize, like, okay, there was still so many tendencies, still so many negative habits that I had that led to that downfall that I didn't focus on when I was reaching that first 100K. I was just so focused and zoomed in on the figures and, status or whatever it might be, that
Yeah.
I didn't do enough soul searching, enough reflecting, enough healing in order to properly, utilize that money. So I'm so happy that you mentioned the nervous system, because your nervous system is what houses your traumas. Your traumas are going to come out when you have things that you never had before, or they're going to come out when you have things that you always preyed upon. That's where the test comes in. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sure enough to say, I failed that first test, but luckily I was able to pass the next ones after that. But yeah, I'm so happy that you mentioned that nervous system piece, because that one was huge, and I wish I learned that before I lost all that money.
Kind of bringing it back to some of the things we've talked about throughout the episode. In being that successful person, there's also maybe this level of shame or guilt that comes with the first gen experience, right?
What? Oh man, what?
Can we
Dang.
go there a little bit?
Let's go there. Oh man. One of the things that like haunted me the most was, or it's kind of like what I would tell myself, and I figured out later on that it just wasn't true. But one of the things that I would tell myself is, nobody knows what I'm going through. Nobody can relate what I'm going through. Like, I'm the first to ever do this. Like, I can't go to nobody. And I realized that wasn't true, because when I started to learn more about my family and reconnect with my lineage, I realized how many of them are entrepreneurs and how many of them do this and that and the third. So we can tell ourselves lies. We can tell ourselves lies and believe them. you know, um, when
Yeah.
it comes to, especially when it comes to money or when it comes to success, being that first generation to really reach it. But I felt a lot of guilt and that's part of the reason why I threw my money away, because that
Mm.
guilt was eating me alive. There's no reason why I should have all this and my mom is still crying over this, or my cousin is still struggling over that. Like, no, this is not fair. Like, oh, or no, I was given this so that I could share it, and everybody else will be good and we'll all be good, and not realize like I wasn't good, or realize that that's not what they asked for. That's not the support that they needed. Like, I was just telling myself all these different lies and not realizing what it was, not realizing the reality of things. It's like, they didn't ask for this, for the money that this is just stuff that you're thinking.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
well, you're broke and you're complaining about money. So here you go. This is what you need. It's like you didn't really sit back and listen to them. Like, guilt played a big part on why I lost so much money. Guilt played a big part on why I threw away so much money, because I felt guilty that I was, quote unquote, the only one who had it, the only one that was experiencing this. And I wanted everybody to experience. I wanted everybody to know, what it was like and things like that. But it wasn't needed. It wasn't asked for. It wasn't called for. But that guilt, I was eating myself alive. And so I had to get rid of it. I was like, no, 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 I can't have all this. But yeah,
So
spirit,
interesting.
yeah, spirit had other plans. Like, yo, that's not really what I wanted you to do with that, bro. Like, you were supposed to use that to do this, not just fucking throw it away. Like, all right, it's back to square one. And it was a tough ride, but that guilt will eat you alive. You feel like you need to play hero. You feel like you need to save the world. You know what I mean? Like for me, I felt like all the pressure was on me, and it was up to me to basically save everybody and all this type of stuff. And yeah, a lot of lies that I told myself in my head. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It must be so hard and such a balance to learn those lessons and then still create abundance. And like, now how do you manage it? Having been through these lessons, now what's your approach?
Now my approach is, if I don't eat, nobody else eats. If I'm not safe, nobody else will be safe. So before, it was, I don't care if I'm safe because everybody else is safe. I don't care if I eat because everybody else can eat. But at the end of the day, if you don't eat, you're not going to have enough energy to get more food. So that means nobody eats. You know,
Yeah.
when when a mama bear has cubs, and you can kind of witness this all over the wild. Whenever the mom makes the hunt, she's always the first to eat. She don't just kill the deer and then step back and the kids come in and eat it and then she gets the scraps. No, 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 no. She takes her parent tax. That's what I call it now that I have 2 kids. Like, it's the parent tax. If I open up a coconut water for them, I'm drinking some and then giving it to you. Like, I'm thirsty. Let me get some, and then there you go. Because you have to make sure you're good. And that's one thing that it was always everybody else before me. And so I, had to learn from that mistake that I have to have stability. If I'm going to create this generational wealth and do all these different types of things that I wanted to do, it's like I have to make sure I'm okay. And so thinking of me first, that's one way that I manage it. Thinking more ahead, thinking like more into the future. Before I was a short-term thinker, like a couple months to a year. Now I'm thinking 5-10 years down the line. Like I'm thinking generationally. I'm thinking by the decade.
You're zooming
I'm
out.
thinking, like zooming
Yeah.
out. I'm thinking more long term. So that's a way that I kind of like protect it now. And of course, a couple things that I didn't have is education, you know, education and mentorship, or, coaching. That one is huge, 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 is finding somebody who has already been through the shit and just listening to them. Now, for me, going back to what I spoke to in the beginning, that rebel mentality, even mentors, even people that were older than me. Granted, I didn't really have anybody that was older than me. I usually was the first person to do something. I usually was just like by myself and I'm just going to do it. I don't need any guidance, or I didn't have any guidance. But as I got older, I started to realize like that's just not the way. You have to be able to learn off of other people's experience, other people's wisdom. It's going to make it so much, it's going to make your lessons and your quote unquote losses or failures, you're going to learn them a lot more graciously. And for me, I was so addicted to learning my lessons the hard way that I rushed into my mistakes just so I can do it and then learn from that mistake. Instead of slowing down, finding somebody who's already done this, learning from their mistakes so that I can kind of move through life more graciously. So that's kind of like how I move now.
Yeah.
A lot more wiser, thank God.
Wow. Yes. Whew, we have touched on so many good subjects. I don't know
I
if
know.
you've realized, but it has been such a good talk. And I feel like we could talk forever.
Yeah, for
But I
sure.
definitely want to move into the resource section, because maybe anyone that's resonating with everything that we've talked about, maybe there are some resources that you can share, and that they can look into, maybe if they're starting off their journey or they're following right where you're speaking and they're like, yep, I want to know like what kind of books does he read, music does he listen to. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions about that.
Please do.
And I was going to do a part 2 with you about herbalism, but I think we got such a good episode today. And I know that you share amazing content on that. And then 2, if you're ever down for part 2 at another time, I would love to
Please,
have
let's
you
do it.
again.
I would
Okay.
love to, absolutely love to.
Yay. Awesome. All right. So then, yeah, let's go into the resource section. So if there's someone out there that would love to read a book about this stuff, is there a book that you're like, this is a must read?
I would say there's a couple books that you can read. There's different books that impacted different stages of my life.
Of the journey.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So a book that is impacting me now, you would have gave it to me 10 years ago and I would have threw it back at you like, what is this? You know what I mean? So the books that I'm
Yeah.
reading now have to do with more so becoming that CEO that I've always wanted to become. Running that company, properly, running that company like strategically and things like that. So right now, a book that I'm obsessed with is called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, I believe is his name. Buy back your time. And it's all about the art of buying back your time, buying back your freedom, and not, as entrepreneurs, we kind of have this thing where we have to wear all the hats. Now, granted, most people aren't going to have any capital in the beginning, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but also it comes to a point where a lot of people play this cautious game because they're scared of that success or they're scared of that failure, to where any profit that they do get, they're scared to let go,
I see. Yeah.
when in reality, that's hurting you even more, especially if you're spending time on things that you aren't passionate about, spending time on things that you aren't good at. Like I said, like if you would have gave me this book when I first started 4 years ago, I would have just threw it back at you like, no, I'm doing everything. Oh, what do you mean? But in this time of my life, I value time with my kids, time, just doing what I want to do a lot more. So that's a really important book. Another good one, I believe it's called Your Next Five Moves. It's by Patrick Bet David. And again, that's a very like CEO, very like you're gonna run a company, and it's great for even just an inspiring entrepreneur. To be honest with you, you don't have to have a business to read this book to get a lot of value from it. The Power of Now, I think, is the very first. Actually, in my junior year, I discovered that. So imagine me in my junior year of high
Wow.
school, I'm reading The Power of Now, and that opened me up to a whole world of possibilities. So The Power of Now,
So
that should
cool.
be probably like everybody's first book when it comes to like spirituality and just understanding that the side of life. Um,
So
what
cool, because that
else?
was my first book into all of this. It
Oh,
was
really?
because
Okay, that's really cool.
yeah, it blows your mind open in different ways that probably I wasn't expecting for it to. So yeah, super cool.
It does. It does. That was a huge one, and it's cool because I had read it, got the information, and my mind was still like a sponge back then. Did I implement it? Yeah, I'm a junior in high school, maybe like 5% of the book, but it
Yeah.
wasn't until years later where that book reappeared, when I was actually trying to manifest my car and leaving my job and stuff like that. That
Mm,
book reappeared and I already knew what it was. So I was like, ooh, let me read that again. I feel like that, it reappeared for a reason. So that one was a,
mhm.
a huge one. And then another one I can recommend, and this actually goes over um, the kind of like this ceiling that we reach. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And it's talking
Okay.
about taking that next step, even though it's unfamiliar, even though it's uncomfortable. It talks about the challenges that come with taking the next step. It talks about this ceiling that we place ourselves in, that we place ourselves under, and how we can self sabotage to go back under that ceiling. So, for example, for
Mm,
me, seeing six figures in my bank account was the most foreign thing that I possibly could have seen. And so
yeah.
I had surpassed that ceiling I put, and it made me go back under, like a
Mm,
animal popped out the hole, like, whoa, this is really scary. Let me just go back under. I'm comfortable down here. So that's a really good book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, to kind of understand why you may have certain tendencies that you may have once you reach a level of success or once you reach a level of consistency or of something. We all have these kind of like vices that so happen to appear as soon as things start going good. That book would kind of like explain that, at least on like a psychological part. That one's a really good one. um How to Own Your Own Mind by Napoleon Hill. If there is a book that will change your life, and it's not going to be The Power of Now. If it's not that one, you don't want to read it, cool. If you read this book, you will not come out the same. There's no way,
oh.
because it puts you onto that understanding of that abundance versus the scarcity. It puts you onto the understanding of the power of your mind, the power of visualization, the power of that spiritual aspect of life. And then it also teaches you how to own it on that physical
Mm,
side. So it teaches you
mm,
about those two sides of life and how to conquer each one. So that one is super powerful. How to own your own mind. You can get it on audiobook, which I personally like better because I can, just listen to it whenever and just keep on listening to it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow. Have you read The Existential Kink?
no, the
Okay.
Essential King.
I wonder if you're going to be interested in it because it talks about repeating the cycles and how we are kind of like addicted to certain things that we think we don't want in our existence anymore. But it like talks
Mm.
about this like how we continue to attract something similar because you get turned on by this, like it kind of fuels your fire to be in the same
Ah,
like rut, So maybe I don't know, you might like
wow.
that read.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's like I feel like that's probably a more spiritual version of the Big Leap. Because the Big Leap is more so
Mm.
on like the psychological side, neuro studies or whatever. But I feel like that's probably like the more spiritual one, probably the one that people would connect with the most. Because this one's a little
A
nerdy,
little
but
more out there.
yeah,
Well, I think people like to marry both, so those two sound like a
true,
good pair.
true. Can you give it to me
Awesome.
again? The S essential,
Yeah,
what was it?
the existential kink.
S essential kink. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that
yes.
one's interesting.
Yeah. It's a bit
Okay.
out there, but I feel like you're down for that type of stuff.
Oh, I'm definitely okay. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, a song that makes you feel inspired.
Oh, there's so many, dude. There's so many. Okay. The one that keeps popping up into my mind is Freemason. It's called Freemason by Rick Ross. And I don't think that many people it's not really a popular song. It's not really a well-known song. Most of the people
Okay.
listening to this might not even know what it is, but I want you to look it up because it talks about kind of like what we talked about today when it talks about the again, the spiritual and the physical, like mastering the mind. And the book is really about, or the song is really about getting you to remember how powerful you are, and like he talks about how, we were once scholars, we were once this, we were once builders, we were once all this, and, what we see now isn't who we really are, so it always motivates me. Like I don't know, it just lights me up every time I listen to that song because it just gives me that reminder that we are way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
We're way more powerful and way more abundant than what our current reality or current situation is showing. So I would say that would be one of my all-time favorite songs when it comes to like motivation, and that is, yeah, Freemason by Rick Ross. And I'll plug this one in, is A Million While You're Young by Nipsey Hussle.
Ooh, okay.
A Million While You're Young. And that song is really important to me because that mindset of just going after something, jumping off of the cliff just to go after it especially while you're young, like you going and just putting your all into something. It just helps me on this journey because that's what we're doing. That's what I've been doing my entire life. I literally just jump off the cliff. I'm like, I don't know where it's going to take me, but screw it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be another one.
Cool. Okay, perfect. What about a quote or advice? Well, I would say quote that you often refer back to.
One of my favorite ones, and it's actually on our website, is art is what God didn't finish. So we are the ones that come in with the free will, with our own style, our own everything, that come in and create art. God gave us all of the resources. He gave us the things to make the paintbrush, to make the paint, to make the everything, but he didn't make that canvas. We came in with our free will, with our thought power to come in and create. And that's how powerful we are. We are just as powerful as that. We're just as powerful as the person who made the materials, because we're taking those materials and making something completely,
You.
something that wasn't
New.
created. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So art is what, God didn't finish.
Oh, I love that. Okay. What's your favorite healing or mindful tool that you would say you use on a regular basis?
It sounds so simple, but breathing. Like when you realize how important, people don't realize how important breath is. It's like, yeah, we breathe. I breathe every day. Sure. Like I'm not dead. I don't remember breathing, but I'm alive. So I must have been breathing, right? Like that. Most people's understanding of breath is just something that's there.
Hmm.
But when you really understand breath, I remember somebody told me breath, like when you look at how important breath is the only thing that is tying you to this existence and, like, let's say the dream world, a whole higher realm. Without breath, you'd be dead. You'd be in the dream world, right? You'd be gone.
An
You'd be in the spirit
anchor.
realm,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with, you know what I mean? So, and without breath, you wouldn't be in the human world. So breath is so powerful that it connects us to two different realms, two different realities. Breath can speed up your life. It can time travel. It can make you time travel. It can either speed up your existence or it can slow it down. You can, you know, and time just goes by like that. Your super anxious time goes by like that. Or you ever did a meditation and you breathe and you did deep breathing and it's like, damn, that was only 10 minutes? It felt like forever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
utilizing your breath will change utilizing your breath intentionally will change your
Mm-hmm.
entire life, because it can either slow things up, it can speed things up, it can speed up your mind, or it can slow down your mind, right? So when you utilize your breath, you can take control over your nervous system, right? You can take control over your entire reality just by utilizing your breath properly. But most people don't do it properly. Most
Yeah.
people, if I asked many people who are listening to this, hey, do you remember taking 5 deep breaths? No, I don't. Actually, I don't. No, I yawned. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I don't really take it. 5 deep, intentional, fill up the belly breaths. Nah, most people don't. So that means we're on autopilot. When we are on autopilot, our environment dictates our life. We don't dictate our life anymore. So your breath will get you off of autopilot. Because what do they tell you when you start meditating? Focus on your breath, how it feels through your nose. You know what I mean? You start focusing
Yeah.
on your breath. You start becoming super, like, just like focused on your breath. Now you are in control of your reality. You know? So once people utilize the breath, that's what I do on a daily basis. Of course, I'm not perfect. I'm not fucking yogi all day, and I have children too, so I have a business, so it's never gonna be
What?
all
With
the
that
time.
hair, you're not always breathing.
As
Just
I'm
kidding.
floating everywhere, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's easy to say that. It's easy to think that when you hear this entire episode. But no, I have children. I have a business. I have traumas that I'm still working through. I have real day-to-day things. But one thing I do have that many don't is awareness of the importance of the breath. Because once I had that, game over. Maybe I might let this situation affect me at the grocery store, but something comes into my mind like, hey, breathe. And it allows me to recollect my thoughts and recollect everything. I'm like, okay, I can move wisely now. Sure, I might have tripped
Yeah.
out for a little bit, but okay, I'm past that. Most people don't have that regulation,
Mm-hmm.
especially not on a conscious level where they can bring it in.
Yeah.
Eventually they have regulation when somebody tells them to chill the hell out, or when the damage is already done, or when, something happens. But if you're able to have that regulation, that awareness of the breath before anything like before anything drastic happens, ooh, your life is going to change so fast.
Yeah. Man. I
That's a
I
long answer, but
yeah.
yeah, the breath.
No, but I'm right there with you. I actually want to get tattooed something that has to do with breathing, like something like breathe or something, because of how powerful it is. And I think, like, yeah, when I started to meditate, I honestly disliked that, like, focus on your breath. It was just so like, oh, it didn't resonate in the beginning. But now I recognize how powerful of an anchor to the present moment it is, and how powerful it can make you. Because usually, like, let's say you're about to, I don't know, you get a big opportunity. I feel like you go into fight or flight. And if you, like you said, can bring yourself to the moment of like just breathe, it can make you powerful, because you're like back to the present. Boom. You're back in, like, I call it player one mode. Like, you're here, and
Yep.
you can take it on, like it's like doable once you anchor in, basically.
Mm-hmm. You take control
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely understand. And yes, breathing is so, so important. And the last section is just a little fun question section. It has to do with
Excited.
random AF things. So here we go.
I love it. I love it.
Pozole o tamales?
Oh, that's actually kind of tough because my wife is Mexican.
Ooh, okay.
So, like, first generation Mexican, like, mom is still speaking Spanish to me, dad is still speaking Spanish to me, you know what I mean? So, that one's
Yeah.
tough. I would say, that's tough. I didn't realize how tough that would be because it's like, wait, who's making the tamales? If it's like your grandma making them, it's tamales. But if it's like, oh, wait, well, I'll say tamales because they're more versatile. I don't need meat or anything like that, so they're super versatile. You can make tamales de piña, de elote, de all this type of
De
stuff. So yeah, I'll say
fresa.
tamales. I love the
Okay.
versatility of tamales.
Not this being the hardest question for you.
For real though, like what?
Yeah, I'm like, did I just see you doubt yourself for a second?
I
What?
did. I'm like, wait. There's so many times where I loved pozole, but yeah.
Oh, okay, tamales. What about salsa verde or roja? Do you eat salsa?
Of course, of course.
Okay.
I would say roja because I've never really tried like a really, really good salsa verde.
Roja. All right. Champurrado or hot chocolate?
Um, when I did drink dairy,
Mm.
champurrado was that stuff.
Mm.
Now I've actually found a couple. I can't remember where exactly they were, or I would plug you with it. But I found some vegan champurados, and they are so good. So champurrado all the
Really?
way. Um, I can't even say that because when I was a kid, these are tough. These are tough questions. When I was a kid, I used to love hot chocolate. Like that was my ritual. With the little marshmallows in there, like that was my
Mm.
thing. But as I got older, and actually, the more I got exposed to Mexican culture, the more I loved
Yeah.
champurrado. Dipping a little bread
Mm.
in there, like little tortas in there, or whatever. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Ooh, talking about bread. Concha de vainilla or chocolate?
vainilla. Vainilla. Because the chocolate, when it comes to chocolate, I want it to taste, I like bitter. I like bitter chocolate.
Oh,
I'm not a
okay.
fan of sweet chocolate anymore. I ate way too many Snickers, way too many Twix, way too many like of those, and it killed the sweet chocolate, like that fake milk chocolate type taste to me.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I like the cacao, like that
Mm.
true chocolate, bitter kind of like bitter chocolate taste. Yeah. So
Yeah. Mm.
vanilla.
Okay. And then if we pull up to your favorite taco place, what is your taco order?
It has to have nopales on there. Has to have nopales.
Mm.
Taco de nopales is my ish. Yes. Or I used to love me some tacos de papa with a good salsa. Mm. Mm-mm. Yeah.
So good. Dorados? Tacos dorados?
Yeah, tacos dorados. Just I have to like chill on like the sour cream and the cheese on the top and all that stuff. You still put the lettuce and all that type of stuff on there. I'll just
And
put salsa
salsa.
all over it. But yeah, that's my jam.
Ooh, all right. Well, thank you so, 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 so much for being on and for sharing your money story, money wounds, money
Ooh.
successes. Such a good topic. And yeah, I have actually been following you for quite some time. I love the way that you portray your information, how passionate you are. I feel like it goes beyond the screen, you know, the passion that you hold. And I also know now, showing up online, how much work that takes, inner and outer, you know, like admin wise, but also the inner work. So thank you so much for being one of the lights, right, that leads the way for people.
Thank you so much. It took a lot of inner work for me to get to that point, because especially when I was a photographer, and I'm kind of going to, I told you I talk a lot, so I'm going to go on a little tangent, but
It's okay.
I would say it took so much inner work because I made this lie up about myself that I didn't belong in front of the camera. I only belonged behind the camera. I remember when I was a photographer, some people would try to take my camera and be like, you, come on, let me take a picture of you. You've been taking a picture of me this whole time. And I'm like, nah, I would just reinforce this lie. Like, nah, I'm staying behind the camera. I don't go in front of the camera. And so it took a lot of just like soul searching. It took a lot of confidence building, solar plexus chakra work. But it just it took a lot to get out there and put myself out there, and to be comfortable enough to consider myself like knowledgeable, consider myself like, even though I had spent 1,000 hours, all these books, all these courses, all these everything, like I'm still in front of the screen, like doubting myself, like, do I really know what I'm talking about? Like, of course you do. What do you mean? You just put in all this work. So it took so much inner work. And for those people who are kind of like on this cusp of, maybe you already started your business, but you post nothing but pictures and nothing of yourself. Or maybe you are hesitant because you're scared to post yourself. I'm going to say, I'm gonna get you to ask yourself this question. Why don't you feel of value? Why don't you feel like your presence matters out there? Like, why don't you feel, and ask yourself these questions, write it down or reflect on it. But why do you feel like you need to diminish your presence? Like you need to diminish your, you and who you are. Why does it make you feel so uncomfortable to put yourself out there and to put yourself as the leader in your space? Like, put yourself as a teacher in your space. Why does it feel foreign to you? Why does it feel uncomfortable to you? When you start asking yourself these questions, then you start to reveal those truths on why you truly don't want to put your face out there, why you truly hide yourself and stuff. So it took a lot of those types of questions, a lot of soul searching, a lot of just being real with myself, a lot of mirror work, talking to myself in the mirror and all these different types of things. Yeah, it took a lot. So I'll thank you for the praise. Thank you for the support. Thank you for acknowledging that. And yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Yay, thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please make sure you share it with your amigas, amigos, amigues. And remember, First Gen, I love you, I love me, and I can't wait for you to love yourself. Bye. Yay.
That was amazing.